Are you guys like Boone's attendants?
They're learning. We're learning.
Oh!
Make sure the valve is closed, and then the first one you want to pour very gently because splashing happens. Very gently. Like if I don't skim it, there's this like fucked up layer on the top of my curd when it sets, and so I try to avoid that. This is the switch that turns on the steam kettle, so I'm gonna turn it on. No matter where you put the switch, the dial, if the switch is over, the burner won't be on. So nothing works. This is a thermostat. So you turn it all the way to the left, which is 0, and then you slowly turn it to the right, and at some point it'll catch. And the thing, you'll hear it, it'll click, and then the burner will turn on. And then what it'll turn this burner off once the jacket reaches a certain temperature. It's holding at like 65 right now. And we wanted to get it to 80. This is not really mozzarella because mozzarella should be made with buffalo milk. Mozzarella di bufalo is the normal. This is cow's milk, so it's not traditional mozzarella, but it's a mozzarella style cheese. The weights of the pails. Got 167. I took out 15 pounds for the cream. We were left with 152 pounds, which translates to 17.7 gallons. Now we're warming the milk to 80 degrees. We will then culture it. One of the ways you can tell how much heat is in the jacket that hasn't been equalized yet is you'll feel the warmth here. So you just touch that. So I used the previous Cheesemakes to determine how much culture and rennet to use. So the last 2 times I bothered to write it down, I had 8 gallons and 13 gallons, and I used about a half tablespoon of culture both times. Let's look at one of Ren's. Ren's are actually here. Look at all that. That's a cheese log. Put my little scraps of paper to shame. Alright, so now that we have this downtime waiting for the milk to come up to temperature, we get to wash our pails. Okay, so this is just about perfect. It's at, okay, are you recording?
Yeah.
So it's at 80 degrees, like maybe 81 or 82, which is exactly what we want. I'm sorry, Cat Wayne.
Cat Wayne!
Sorry, dude. Watch out. Watch out. Whoa!
Oh, Cat Wayne.
Cat Wayne, get off. Get off. Alright, we should be good. Thermophile type C is our bacteria of choice for mozzarella. Lots of little bacteria. We sprinkle. That very hard to remember is to put this away right away. I often leave it out, not in the freezer, and that's less than ideal. And you can already see how much cream there is on top of this. You see the blue poking through, which is the milk. So I did not, because of that whole agitation issue, did not do a great job skimming. So that will impair my curd forming process slightly. I added the culture, which is the little orange bits you see floating, and I let them sit there for a little bit of time, and now I'm gently stirring them in, and then gradually, not so gently. Okay, so Wow. Yeah, I think there's plenty of heat in there. It's like 85 right now. I still feel heat, so I bet I'll get to 90 all on its own, which is our target temperature. So this, Andrea, is the Bago cheesemaking supplies. We want rennet. So you dissolve the powder rennet in the water. Stir vigorously. Cover to protect from flies. So yeah, you want to do that maybe like a half an hour before you have to use the rennet, so that it has time to dissolve. I guess it takes a while to dissolve into the water.
You already did the culture?
Yes, so that's what you missed.
Coleman!
Yeah, so that's like kind of the rennet has just kind of, I don't know, like settles on the top, and so give it a little spin, it'll, you know, separate out a little bit or whatever. Quite so concentrated. And then yeah, I pour this through this so as to spread it out rather than being a concentrated blast of rennet in one location. Yeah, so it's trying to like evenly disperse it. Perfect. Okay, so now you want to stir the rennet in, but there's a big distinction here. Our goal is for the milk to be still when we're done. So we don't want to be vigorous because the milk will not be still. We want it to be still so that the curd sets, so that the rennet does its job and sets everything. So what Ren recommends is up and down motions, which don't cause very much waves. So you do want to stir, but very gentle stirring, so that by the time we're done, the milk is still. So yeah, and then what you're waiting for now is, the technical term is flocculation, which is, it means that your curd has formed. So it'll become like a very gentle jello-like structure. And so it usually takes about 25-30 minutes. So now we wait again. Okay, so this is the clean break test. If you will bring your camera over here. Okay, so that's very good. This is solid, right? So it's no longer a liquid, it is now a jello type thing. And so the clean break test is I poke my finger, and then when I lift it, see how it parts? It you can see it's not liquid, it's like it peels apart.
Yeah.
That's the clean break test. This is now a solid curd. So what I'm doing here is attempting to cut the curd into a bunch of little cubes, maybe like half an inch. I try to be gentle so as to not scratch the inside of the steam kettle. Keep just enough pressure so that the blade maintains contact without pushing very hard. So you can see like the cross pattern as I'm finishing up. So this is my second of 3 sets of cuts. The last one is the trickiest one. It's the vertical level cuts. Because I do 3, like I'm trying to chop this way, perpendicular to the or parallel to the ground. So I make 3 sets of cuts. I try to just go down a ½ inch each time, but it gets really tricky after a while.
Yeah.
Now I gently agitate. So what was happening is as I cut the curd, they release whey, which is why you want to cut it so many times, is you want to create a large surface area for which the curd to release the whey. Whey is the liquid, the yellow liquid. It has protein content, which I will later extract by making ricotta, which literally means twice cooked. I will be stretching my mozzarella in whey, and if I left the proteins in the whey, the proteins would then get in my stretched mozzarella, and they would, to use Ren's analogy, be like sand in your taffy. You don't want sand in your taffy. And so to get the sand out, I make ricotta, which removes the milk protein from the whey, and therefore makes it good for stretching. And so now, this is a tedious thing. You can see there are several curds that are obviously much larger than a ½ inch cube. So I chop them up, make them smaller. And and you're supposed to stir this, and so I stir, and then I bring up big pieces of curd, and then I chop them up. Again, I want to increase that surface area. I'm waiting for the curd to reach a certain acidity, which I don't know off the top of my head. It's in the book over there. But yeah, so I'm going to finish stirring the curds to make sure they stay separate from themselves and that they release a lot of whey. I'm adding heat, raising the temperature of all this to like 95, 98 degrees, which will accelerate the acidification. And then once I'm done stirring and making sure all the curds are small, I will let them sit for like, let's say 45 minutes, an hour. And then I will drain the whey, and so there'll just be a congealed mass of curd. And then that will sit until it reaches a certain acidity, at which point I will be able to stretch a 1-inch cube a yard. I will be able to take a 1-inch cube of curd, heat it in the hot whey, and it'll stretch a yard. And at that point, it is ready for the stretching process. So that's what's coming up. After we had cut and stirred the curds, they have all settled and continue to ripen, so they're going to be all kind of at the bottom, sitting together in one big lump. They'll have like recongealed together, more or less. The next step is to drain the whey, but before I drain it, I want to capture it to do my stretching. So I'm going to first make ricotta to remove the remaining proteins in the whey from the whey, and then I will stretch my mozzarella curds in protein-less whey. And so the ricotta process is we're going to bring our whey up to 190 degrees Fahrenheit, reaching down and lifting the curd mass up, and then sliding this under it and blocking the drain hole. Other than letting the curd sit in the whey for the 45 minutes, everything up until that point was pretty standard for most cheeses. So you'll go through those beginning steps for a lot of the cheeses you'll make. And that's after you cut apart the curds, that's when you'll start making changes to do different styles. And so Andrew, what happens, just for your knowledge, like the curds block that grate, and so I have to lift the curds up so that the whey can escape. Probably at least 2 hours to get to the proper stretching, but it is warmer now that it's summertime, so it might, and that accelerates the acidification of everything, so it might take less than 2 hours. I'm continuing to check back, and so now it's not really difficult, but I have these two processes going at the same time, and one of the reasons why I don't make a shitload of ricotta is because the ricotta needs to be done whenever that's ready. Because once that's ready, there's like a window. It's like not acidic enough, and then it is acidic, and then it can get too acidic. So the only time you have to stretch is inside that window. And so if that's ready to go and the ricotta, like the ricotta is not out of the way, then that's bad. I'm gonna be stretching my mozzarella curd in the whey. I don't want that protein in there. It's like sand in your taffy. So to get the sand out, I make ricotta, which means like twice cooked. And so this is the whey protein is now ricotta, and so what's left of the whey does not have that protein in it. Here I can pour. So in the mozzarella process, my curd is culturing. You can take a look in here if you want. So this is like a mass of curds. They had been cut up, but they recongealed. And if I had a pH meter, I could measure their pH to tell if they're ready to be stretched. But since I don't have a pH meter, I'm going to perform what's known as the stretch test. So I will be taking a roughly 1-inch cube of curd. Maybe my inch is slightly large here. So 1-inch cube. This will be going in hot whey. So this is whey that has had has had ricotta taken out of it. So it has less protein than most whey. It's theoretically it's between 170 and 180 degrees. I think it's a little bit over right now. It got a little bit hotter. Just double check. I don't think that's too big of a problem.
Hands with gloves on.
Yeah. Alright, this is the moment of truth. I'd say that's roughly 3 feet, and we have success here. Because so many different kinds of food processing happen in here, in the summer when just life, it's very humid and like very warm, so there's a lot of life going on here. We have a little bit of yeast contamination, which manifests in our cheese as these little holes. I don't know if you can see them, but the little tiny ones like that, that's from yeast, creating gas. And so this is why I choose to make mozzarella, is in the stretching process, the secondary cook stage, so the yeast will get killed off and the bubbles will get worked out as the curd gets stretched. So like a pressed cheese, the yeast would make that not work, and so that's why I choose to make mozzarella during the hot summer months, and also to get consumed. And I'm simply going to add some salt to my whey so that the mozzarella itself is salty.
He wants you to take it back.
packs. Yeah, obviously. That's how he makes money on that whole endeavor. Is people buying packs.
Maybe I should do that. You care if I have a couple hams?
No.
How do you like hams?
It's fucking cheap beer.
It is cheap fucking beer.
I don't expect much more of it than that.
Yeah.
It does the trick. And then I'm gonna cool it in cold water. To stop further culturing. That's the process. The mozzarella has cooled, which has hopefully halted further culturing, so it will not further acidify. I like to coat my mozzarella with salt, which will draw out further whey. Well, I don't know, draw out liquid. I think it's mostly water. Draw out some moisture and just add to the saltiness, which most people like salty mozzarella. So this is my last step. Boom.
That's the ricotta.
Correct.
How could I forget? I missed getting that pulled off the claw. It's okay. Does it just kind of break down on its own into little bits?
I mean, it's crumbly,
It's crumbly.
but it'll stay relatively clumped up until you break it apart.